3,300 years ago, in the land of golden sands and ancient gods, a 9-year-old boy stepped onto a throne that would shake the ancient world. His name was Tutankhamun, and despite ruling for less than a decade, his story has captivated the world for over a century. Welcome to the animated past. Be sure to like and subscribe to never miss a new video. Today we travel back to ancient Egypt, a civilization so grand, so mysterious, and so enduring that it still leaves us breathless 3 millennia later. This is the story of the boy Pharaoh, King Tut. To understand Tutankhamun, we first need to understand the world he was born into. Ancient Egypt was one of the greatest civilizations ever to exist on Earth. For over 3,000 years, it ruled the banks of the mighty Nile River, a thin green ribbon of life cutting through an endless golden desert. The Nile was everything. It flooded every year, depositing rich, dark soil on its banks. That soil grew wheat and barley that fed millions. Without the Nile, there is no Egypt. Egyptians knew this. They called the fertile land the Black Land, and the barren desert the Red Land. At its height, ancient Egypt controlled trade routes from sub-Saharan Africa to the shores of the Mediterranean Sea. Its armies were feared. Its architects built monuments so massive and so perfectly engineered that we still marvel at them today. And at the center of it all, at the very top of Egyptian society, was the Pharaoh. Not just a king, a living god on earth. Tutankhamun was born around 1341 BC. His father was Pharaoh Akhenaten, one of the most controversial rulers in all of Egyptian history. Akhenaten was a revolutionary. In a civilization built on thousands of years of tradition and a vast pantheon of gods, he did the unthinkable. He banned all the gods, every single one. Ra, the sun god; Osiris, god of the dead; Anubis, the jackal-headed guide of souls; all of them outlawed. In their place, Akhenaten declared there was only one god, the Aten, the sun disk itself, and he alone was its representative on earth. He tore down temples. He scratched the names of old gods from monuments. He moved the entire capital to a brand new city he built from scratch in the desert, called Akhenaten, known today as Amarna. The priests were furious, the people were confused, and the empire began to weaken. Then Akhenaten died, and a 9-year-old boy was suddenly the most powerful person on earth. Imagine being 9 years old and crowned ruler of the most powerful empire on earth. No school, no homework. Instead, a double crown on your head, a kingdom in chaos, and the weight of a civilization on your shoulders. That was Tutankhamun's reality around 1332 BC. But he didn't rule alone. 2 powerful men stood beside him. The first was an elderly grand vizier, the highest official in the land. Shrewd, experienced, and possibly Tut's own grandfather. The second was General Horemheb, commander of Egypt's armies, a military man who had little patience for religious revolution. He wanted Egypt restored to its former glory. Together, these two essentially ran Egypt while the boy Pharaoh grew up. One of the first, and most important, things young Tut did as Pharaoh was reverse everything his father had done. He changed his own name. From Tutankhaten, meaning living image of the Aten, to Tutankhamun, meaning living image of Amun. A small change in letters, but a massive statement to the Egyptian people. The old gods were back. Temples were reopened. Priests were reinstated. Statues of the old gods were restored. The vast network of Egyptian religion, which employed hundreds of thousands across the empire, was brought back to life. Tut also moved the royal capital back to Thebes, abandoning his father's city of Amarna almost entirely. Workers dismantled the buildings. The city was erased from history, or so it was hoped. These reforms made Tutankhamun enormously popular with the priests and the people, even if he was still just a boy being guided by older, more powerful men. While Tut navigated royal politics, life along the Nile continued as it had for thousands of years. Egypt in 1330 BC was a world of breathtaking complexity. Farmers worked the black soil along the Nile, growing wheat and barley. Fishermen cast nets from papyrus reed boats. Merchants traded spices, gold, ivory, and linen at bustling markets. The Egyptians were pioneers of medicine, mathematics, and engineering. They developed one of the earliest written languages, hieroglyphics, a system of hundreds of symbols that took scribes years to master. And they maintained one of the most fearsome armies in the ancient world. Chariots, fast, lethal, and terrifying to foot soldiers, gave Egypt a battlefield advantage that lasted for centuries. Here's something that might surprise you. King Tut may have been a warrior pharaoh. Inside his tomb, archaeologists discovered military equipment: bows, arrows, shields, chariots, and bronze daggers. Ancient paintings show him riding a chariot into battle, shooting enemies with a bow. But here's the complication. When scientists examined Tut's mummy, they found something unexpected. He had a club foot. His left foot was badly deformed, likely from birth. Walking was painful. Running was nearly impossible. Yet buried alongside him were 130 walking canes. 130. Some showed signs of actual use, worn at the tip from years of leaning on them. So was he truly a warrior? Or were the battle paintings just royal propaganda, the ancient Egyptian version of a photo op? The answer, as with so much about Tut, remains a mystery. Around 1323 BC, King Tutankhamun died. He was approximately 19 years old. For decades, people assumed he was murdered. The young king dies suddenly, with no heir. His powerful advisors immediately take control. It has all the hallmarks of an assassination, but the truth may be more complicated and more tragic. In 2010, a team of scientists conducted the most thorough DNA analysis ever performed on an Egyptian royal mummy. Their findings were startling. Tut had at least 4 serious diseases at the time of his death, including malaria, a bone disease in his foot, and a degenerative condition that weakened his bones. He also had a badly broken leg, likely from a fall, possibly from his chariot. The current leading theory: Tut fell from his chariot, broke his leg badly, then developed a severe infection. His already weakened immune system couldn't fight it. Within weeks, he was gone. Not murdered, just terrifyingly unlucky. Tomb. After death, Egyptian pharaohs underwent a complex 70-day mummification process. The brain was removed through the nose. Internal organs were removed and placed into special containers called canopic jars. The body was packed with natron, a natural salt, to dry it out. Then it was wrapped in hundreds of meters of linen bandages, with amulets and charms tucked between the layers for protection in the afterlife. Tut's mummy was placed inside a solid gold coffin, which was placed inside a second coffin, which was placed inside a third coffin, which was sealed inside a massive stone sarcophagus. 4 gilded shrines surrounded it all, nested like Russian dolls. Along with Tut went 5,398 objects: chariots, thrones, beds, board games, food, wine, weapons, jewelry, statues of gods, and more gold than most countries see in a lifetime. The tomb was sealed. Workers smoothed the ground to hide its location, and for over 3,000 years, the world forgot Tutankhamun entirely. Fast forward to 1922. The Valley of the Kings in Egypt, a sun-baked rocky desert where pharaohs had been buried for 500 years. A British archaeologist named Howard Carter had been searching this valley for 5 years. His sponsor, the wealthy Lord Carnarvon, was losing patience. He had found almost nothing. On November 4th, 1922, everything changed. A young water boy working at Carter's dig site stumbled on something strange: a step cut into the rock. Carter was called immediately. The team began digging furiously. By November 24th, they had uncovered a sealed doorway with an intact ancient seal, the royal seal of the Valley of the Kings. Carter made a small hole in the top of the door. He held up a candle and peered inside. Lord Carnarvon asked nervously, "Can you see anything?" Carter was silent for a long moment. Then he replied, "Yes, wonderful things." Before them lay the greatest archaeological discovery in history, untouched for 3,245 years. Things. It took Carter and his team 10 years to fully excavate the tomb. 10 years. They cataloged 5,398 individual artifacts. Golden thrones, alabaster cups, a golden fan still bearing ostrich feathers, board games, sandals, an entire dismantled chariot. And at the center of it all, sealed in 4 nested golden shrines, was Tut himself. When Carter finally opened the innermost coffin, made of solid gold weighing 110 kilograms, he found Tut's mummy wearing what may be the most famous object in the history of art, the golden death mask of Tutankhamun. A perfect, serene face of pure gold, inlaid with lapis lazuli, carnelian, and obsidian. The striped royal headdress, the divine cobra and vulture on his brow. It weighs 10.23 kilograms. It is breathtakingly beautiful, and it is 3,300 years old. Today it sits in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, and if you ever get the chance to see it in person, you'll understand exactly why Howard Carter was speechless. So who was King Tutankhamun really? He was a boy born into impossible circumstances, heir to a religious revolution that had torn Egypt apart, guided by powerful men who may have used him as a puppet, struggling with disease and physical pain his entire short life. And yet under his reign, even at age 9, Egypt began to heal. The temples reopened, the old gods returned, the people breathed again. He died at 19, forgotten so quickly that his successors scratched his name from monuments. For 3,000 years he was a ghost. Then in a dusty valley in 1922, Howard Carter's candle cut through the darkness, and King Tutankhamun, the boy who was forgotten, became the most famous pharaoh who ever lived. If you enjoyed this episode of The Animated Past, subscribe and hit the bell, because next time we're diving into the most brutal battle of the ancient world. You won't want to miss it.